After my last video talking about matches and why I thought they were so important, I was talking with RC Gas Gun on Instagram, and he was talking about how so often we take for granted the time we live in and the opportunities that we have, that we get to shoot such incredible guns, we have access to such good technology and equipment that we take it for granted. We often overlook how blessed we truly are, that billions of people who've come before us would love the opportunity, one, just to get to shoot the guns we get to shoot, but two, to be able to shoot in the matches and train the way we do. They would love that, along with billions of people who are alive today but don't have the same accessibility that we have or freedoms that we have, and that we take that for granted. So it got me really fired up to shoot matches more than I already was. It got me more excited to train than I already was. So with that in mind, I want to talk about the gear I'll be using in 2026. My two main squeezes, along with all the extra gear that goes with me to matches and the stuff I use. So as you watch this, I want you to focus more on the why behind the gear and not necessarily the what. The what is important, but not everybody can use all the same things, and the why behind it may not meet your why, kind of like we talked about in a previous video. And if you're not already following Rob, RC Gas Gun, on Instagram, I will leave his handle down below and a link in the description so you can go follow him. He shows a lot of trigger cam footage, he answers questions about his own journey, and he documents his progress, the mistakes he's made, and the things he's doing right as he gets better at shooting bolt gun and gas gun. So a good resource to have. Go give him a follow. Kicking it off with the new shiny thing, because we all love the new shiny things, is my NRL and PRS bolt gun. Now, I wanted to shoot one bolt gun this year. As I mentioned in previous videos, I am limited in time, so I want to make the most of it. And by getting reps on one gun, I just felt like it helps me to be more confident on the gun. So really, I was more concerned with capability when I built out this gun and certain things that I wanted to utilize. And then wherever that put me in weight and divisions and classification, I'm cool with that. More so, I just wanted to build out the gun that I wanted, and wherever it fits in is where it fits in. So this started as the Manners Night Stalker stock. Now, the only one that I was able to find in stock was in a color that I really didn't like. So I reached out to the guys over at Vulcan Machine Works and had them Cerakote it. This is a variation of their M90. I picked out a few colors and talked with Nick there, and he was able to make this come to life, and I love how it came out. So fantastic. The main reason that I chose this stock was that it has the adjustable buttstock and then also has the adjustable height of comb. So length of pull and height of comb were really important for me, because talking with Ryder, again, somebody I will mention throughout this video and I will link down below, talking with him last year about how important length of pull is for positional shooting. One of the things we talked about was how if it's too long, you can't reach out, otherwise you're bladed off to be able to reach out and squeeze your bag the way you need to. So that was one of the things I was very cognizant of this year, and I wanted to be able to have that adjustment so I can be in a position where I feel confident and feel comfortable. So this gives me that. Also, height of comb, I like to be able to have a little bit looser cheek weld. It's more of like a chin weld for me, maybe just above, kind of in between, but I like a looser cheek weld there, just because when you get in certain positions, if you're leaning too heavily into it, I find that it creates more wobble in my wobble zone for me. So I run it a little bit looser to try to eliminate some of that. And when you get in the awkward positions, it just gives you more space to work with. From there, running a Trigger Tech Diamond trigger. This is their 2-stage. I switched over to a 2-stage away from a single stage, mainly because I like to prep on triggers. Some guys don't. You can prep on a single stage, but it's a little bit different. So I like to be a little more aggressive on the prep, and the 2-stage allows me to do that. I was used to it from running gas gun, so switching over to it was kind of a no-brainer. It makes it easier for me to swap back and forth between platforms without having to dry fire as much to get used to that trigger break. So that's why I did that. If I don't like it for whatever reason, I'll switch back to the single stage. That is attached to a Defiance Anti-X action. Had good success with it in the past. This is just a newer version of it. So Defiance Anti-X action. Attached to that is a Proof 6.5 Creedmoor barrel, carbon barrel, 24-inch. I do pre-fits because they're easy for me to replace, and the Proof barrels have been really good to me. I've had really good success in terms of velocity and accuracy. So far, so good. We'll see as the year goes on and see how long it takes for me to burn this barrel out. But once I do, it is easy to find a replacement, versus if I go custom, it takes a little longer. You have to prepare in advance. You have to order them, and sometimes they get backed up. So it just makes it easier for me. Just peace of mind doing a pre-fit makes more sense. And again, I've had great success with Proof. I went 6.5 because of ammo availability. I can get 6.5 just about anywhere. I know a lot of guys that reload it. So with that, it allows me to practice more with this gun. And if for whatever reason there's another ammo shortage, I know I can find something and make it work for the time being. At the end of the Proof barrel, we do have the KGM. This is their R65, and it's been good so far. I like the tone. It's nice. I don't mess with the tuning holes on it. Some guys have mentioned that I should, but I just shoot it the way it is. It is what it is. The suppressor wrap that I use is the Burnproof Gear. I've had really good success with their suppressor wraps. I know there's some others out there that have a higher rating, and I know there's a debate about if suppressors even get that hot, or once they do get that hot, if they do you start to then damage the baffles by keeping all that heat inside? So that's a whole back and forth. But the burn-proof ones have worked great for me. I use them on all my cans. I do use the heavy-duty version, which is, it has that little Kevlar liner on the inside. That does help substantially, but it does help with the mirage a lot, because this gun especially gets a lot of mirage, and then here in Texas in the summer, we get a ton of mirage. Moving up from there, I have the Night Force Attacker 5-25. I did mess with some of the other options in the lineup. So I do have the 7-35, and I also have the 4-20. I tried those two as well. Now the 7-35, I think probably out of all three of those, has the best quality glass in terms of contrast and sharpness. I really like that. Problem is, it's a little bit too much magnification, I think, for what I'm doing with NRL. So that will likely stay on my dasher, where I feel like that fits a little bit better, and that optic really shines on that gun. The 4-20, while the field of view was really nice at 4 and being able to scan and find targets, I felt was really good. It just didn't have quite enough magnification to burn through some of the mirage and some of the shadows like I'd like to when you have to zoom in when they're hidden. So by not having that, it just wasn't, I didn't feel as comfortable as I did with the 5-25. Now, people will say the 5-25 is dated and that the glass quality isn't as good as the 7-35. And I would say those are probably fair assessments of the optic. However, the glass quality is still really good. But when you compare it to the 7-35, it doesn't look as good. But it is still really good quality glass. I like the Attacker line because of how durable they are. That's what I like about it. And I like the Mil XT. So I ended up sticking with the 5-25 for NRL Hunter, and it'll work for me for PRS as well. That's in some Night Force rings, and then I've got a prototype piece that'll come on here that hopefully I can talk about in the near future. And then on top, this is the Coing diving board for the Night Force rings. So their diving board sits a little bit lower than the Night Force one. The Night Force one is a little bit taller. I like the lower profile because it puts your laser more in line, closer to being in line with your reticle of your scope, so that gap isn't so big as, you're columnating them. But, that's all personal preference. But I do like this one because I don't like it being so high. I like it lower profile. On top, we have the Mars LC. This is pricey. There are some other options in the market, but I did want to run a laser rangefinder, a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder this year. And after talking with Ryder and some other guys, this is the one that I had my eye on. And it was one of those buy once, cry once things for me, and more so just kind of like a bucket list item that I wanted. There are other good options, and hopefully, talking with a couple companies, I will have some other ones to test and compare. So if you're in the market for one and want one that's a little bit more budget friendly, or you're just not willing to drop the coin for this, you can see what some of those other options will do in comparison. Moving on from there to the front, we have the MDT triple pull with the PRSS pod knobs. These make it easier to actuate, especially when things are cold or if you have gloves on. I also have the LRT fat trimmer on there, and then attached to that is the Really Right Stuff quick release. I went with that because it makes it easier and faster. Not only does it save weight, but it makes it easier and faster to take it off of the Picatinny, put it onto the Arca. So my only complaint about the Night Stalker stock is that this Arca rail doesn't go all the way to the front. I understand why it is set up the way that it is, but I hope that in a future iteration, there is an option for this Arca rail to go all the way to the front, so that then you can just slide the bipod back without having to take it off of the Picatinny, put it on the Arca, take it off of the Arca, put it back on the Picatinny. And sometimes you end up on a prop where it's really short, or like a rock or a barrel, and being able to make your footprint smaller is a super nice option to have, and being able to do that efficiently is a nice option to have. Not that you can't do it this way, it just requires a little more time to take it off of the Picatinny and put it on the Arca and then go back. So it's just a little bit of a hassle, takes up a little bit more time, and when you're on the clock like NRL Hunter, it is nice to be able to have that ability. So it is what it is. We'll see if Manners does that in the future. I know there will be a question about why I went with the Gen 2 over the Gen 3. And the reason is the 45-degree angle. So the way it is sitting right now, I can't do this with the new Gen 3. And that's something that I do in matches, because like this table is narrow. And if I were to open these legs all the way up, it then hangs off, and that's not super stable. So being able to go to 45 keeps the legs on the prop, or on the table in this case, and it allows me to still be behind the gun. I could go super narrow and raise it up like that, but then at the back, that's what it leaves me to have to deal with. So it's just not it's not as feature rich, I think, in my opinion. I understand the changes they made, but I just like this setup better. So the legs haven't been an issue for me like they have been for some other guys. So if I start to have those issues, maybe I will switch over to the Gen 3. But for right now, I'll be using the Gen 2. And I did go triple pull specifically for NRL Hunter. NRL, especially here in Texas, we have this high grass that's like as high as this table or sometimes chest high. So being able to have a triple pull is a bit of a game changer. It's a little more tough. You can shoot off a tripod, you can shoot off of a bag deck, you can shoot clipped in, but being able to have the triple pull out and the use tripod rear is a really nice option to have. A couple of finishing touches that I want to mention, just touch on, is one, the electrical tape around the eyepiece. So if you run Night Force optics, you know we tape these so that way you don't mess up your ocular adjustment. The other thing too is with the scope cap at the rear. I mean, I typically have a trigger cam on, but one of the things that I do is if I'm not using a trigger cam and I have scope caps on, I take them off because if you leave them on, they get in the way of the bolt. The bolt won't run. So I just take it off so that way you can run the bolt, no issues. Just throw this in a pocket, put it back on after the stage. The other thing is with electrical tape on the butt pad at the rear, I wrap them, and I picked this up. I forgot who I picked it up from, but I think it was Ridgeline, talked about it in a class. But if you use electrical tape and you wrap it around the rubber, it keeps it from sticking on shirts and jackets. So especially a lot of the NRL matches are in the winter and cold weather. So if you're wearing like a puffy, it'll snag on there. It's just kind of annoying. This keeps it slick so it doesn't snag on some of that. So electrical tape there. And then this piece right here, this is a Multitasker Nano. This is just one of their little tools, and I use it. I keep it to adjust this. I actually picked this up from Ryder, from Right Time Ryder. Again, I said I'd mention him a lot in this video. But he had his attached to the stock down here, and because this laser may come off and go on a different gun or whatever, by keeping it attached there, it makes sense for me so I don't have to keep taking it off the gun to go with it. So it's always there. If I need to correct my zero or for whatever reason the laser's off, I can make a quick adjustment, and I always have the tool with me without having to dig through my bag to get that. So just a neat little tip that I picked up from Ryder. So that is my PRS and NRL Hunter bolt gun. Moving on to gas gun is my tried and true Sons of Liberty broadsword. Now, if you've been around my content for any amount of time, you know I've been using this gun for the last year or two, and it's worked out great for me. And people have asked, why don't you switch to something else? You're going to shoot something else, especially now with the Mark 1 being out. And I would love to shoot a Mark 1 if they want to send me one and they say, hey, we want you to test it and give some feedback. Cool. I got no problem with that. But outside of that, I don't feel like this gun is lacking in any way for me personally. So I don't feel the need to move on from it, and it's set up the way that I like, so I just continue to shoot it, and that's why I haven't changed. That's the real reason. So for those of you who haven't been around and don't know the setup, I'll run through it really quickly for you, starting at the back, working to the front like we did with the bolt gun. So here at the back, we do have the Magpul CTR stock, so I get a bunch of questions about this. Magpul CTR with the Arasaka angle adapter and bag rider. Now the angle adapter, all it does is straighten it out, and then it allows you to change the angle of the buttstock and then raise it up or down for your preference to fit you better. Then I have an irregular defense cheek piece. This just raises my cheek weld up just to get it a little more in line with where I like it. A couple of small pieces I've changed on the broadsword. For the most part, it is the same from the factory, but one notable piece I will say that I changed is the charging handle. This is a 4 controls design. I like this better than some of the other ones in the market because I feel like it does a better job of blocking gas, and I like that it's a solid piece versus the wings. I have found that in some situations the wings will snap off, they'll shear off because of the pins inside. So I just like this better. It's just a personal preference. If what you got works great, cool, keep using what you got. Right here, I get questions about the B5 grip. I like the B5 because it's a little more vertical. It makes it easier in some of the different positions that we shoot out of. Also, I get questions about not having a tang. I have tiny little hands, so when you run a tang and some of the higher ones or thicker ones, it ends up moving your grip further back. And what that does is it pulls your trigger finger further back. So by having no tang, I can get higher up. I like to grip like a pistol, so I like to get higher up and closer, and that just gives me more space to get this finger in line with where I want it to be. And that's just, again, a personal preference, and it fits me better, so that's why I use it that way. For you guys who have bigger hands, you may want the higher tang that goes further back. Going forward from there, this is the newer R-Lock Arca integrated rail. I really like it. For all the reasons that I mentioned with the bolt gun, this allows me to move the bipod back and forth. So Harris bipod with the Ridgeline trick, and then a really right stuff clamp so that I can slide it back and forth. Attached to the barrel, I have the KGM can. This is the 556A1, which is their heavier duty use. It also works with 6 ARC, I believe, and 6 Max. Again, burn-proof gear. suppressor wrap on there with the high temp Kevlar wrap underneath. Mod light, this is the same one I've been using for years now. I think I've had this light for 4 years, 5 years, no issues with it. I use the Surefire tail cap, so that way if the button dies or whatever, I can switch over. It still works. 100 Concepts caps. Some people love them, some people hate them. They've been great for me. I like them. And then moving up, we have the Night Force mount, so 154 mount with an attacker 4 to 16 in there. So the 4 to 16 range, and then I think Loopold has the 3.6 to 18 or whatever it is. That range, I think, is the sweet spot in terms of magnification for gas gun, at least for me, for 5.56. Guys who are shooting 6 arc maybe want a little bit more because they're able to push out a little bit further. So for me and the way that I shoot, I think the 4 to 16 works great. And as I said in a previous video, the 4 to 16 continues to be my gold standard for gas gun optic. That's a personal preference. You may not agree with that. That's okay. Shoot whatever you like. Shoot what suits you and your goals. On top, this is the Coin mount. So again, the same people who made the diving board for the bolt gun, they make these top dot adapters. So whatever optic you want to run up top, they have a plate that'll adapt to this, so you can run those optics. I run the Aimpoint Acro on there. I do have the extended knob from Ridgeline. These things are clutch. I need to get some more of these. And then I have the MDT Sendit level. This is the older version, not the new one. And then last but certainly not least is the Ridgeline. This is their sling. So their hog leash. I love this sling because you can actually use it in lieu of a rear bag. So you just angle it up or down. You can slide it up or down. You can clip in with it. I really like it. I like this sling a lot. I need to get some more of them. So to the guys over at Ridgeline, whenever they come in stock, please let me know so I can snag some more. One thing I do want to note is that this lower receiver does have the ambi bolt release. That's not a must-have for people, but it is a nice-to-have, and it is something that I like when we're shooting matches. But outside of that, you don't necessarily need it, and there are other options. So if that's not your jam, you don't like that, cool. Whatever works for you. And then one thing that I did do, I will note, is that I put this little rubber piece, one of those Picatinny filler rubber pieces from Magpul, and that's just because occasionally I will put my thumb there and I'll press down really hard to help stabilize the gun, and I squeeze the bag together. So when I do that, it just keeps those from digging into my hand. It's, out here being soft or whatever. So that is my gas gun setup. If there's something I left out of here or something that has to be cut out because of YouTube, because there's certain things YouTube doesn't like, I will leave a link down in the description that has information on all these. So if there's something specific you're looking for, you can find those. Before we move on to the rest of the gear, I do want to give a quick shout out to my BJJ coach and a friend, James Gonzalez. If you notice, this table is different than my normal table. This is a table I commissioned for him to make for me. He put in some green accents for me because all my guns are green or have green in them. It's kind of my thing. But he is a Purple Heart recipient, and in a way for him to give back, he makes wood furniture and other things, and he raffles them off, and he gives them to this Purple Heart organization that helps Purple Heart recipients and helps veterans. So I told him I wanted to give him a plug. So if you guys would go follow his page, follow his account, and then whenever he does a raffle for furniture or little items or whatever that is, just know all the proceeds from that are going to help Purple Heart recipients. So again, I want to give a shout out to James and what he's doing in a way to help his fellow brothers. So moving on to stuff that I carry on my body. So some people would probably call this like first line. Mine is like, I don't know if I would call it that, but first thing is going to be my data board, my arm board from Sun and Shadow. So this is their one you can get off of their website. You can customize my data cards in there, or custom ones that I've made myself. I'll do a whole separate video on data cards because there's so many good options out there, and you can customize them for yourself for what makes sense for you and what you're doing. But the big difference between this one and the ones that are available for most people is that this doesn't have the 2 straps. I don't like the 2 straps because our arms just they're not shaped that way. So it always ends up sliding down. It gets real annoying. So I asked him to make me one more like a quarterback sleeve, and it's a custom one he made. So if you want something like this, or you think he should make it a part of the lineup, leave a comment down below or go tell Sun and Shadow, tell John to make these available for everybody. So big shout out to Sun and Shadow. They are big supporters of precision shooters, whether that's gas gun and bolt gun. So big thank you to them for that, for making that for me. This is from Short Action Precision. So this is their like mag holder. It's adjustable, so it fits all kinds of mags. So I just keep this on my belt. I don't have any specific belt, so I use like a leather belt, or like I have a Hunter Constantine belt, and I'll put it on. I put it back here because that's how I'm so used to running it from when I was shooting gas gun, and it just makes sense for me. So I always keep that there because it's out of the way when I'm shooting positional stuff. So good piece of kit to have. Moving on to chest rig. This is the new Eberly Stock Bravo. So I do have a bit that I want to say about this. Now, the big thing is when I talked to them last year, I said, hey, I would love a version of the Recon without magnets. And they were like, hey, we're glad you said that because we actually have this coming, and I got to see the prototype of it. So now that it was available, I went and snagged one. I bought one, and so far so good. Again, I've only had it for about a month or two, and I really like it. This is the smaller version. They do make a larger one, so if you have larger binos, you can do that. But the big thing was getting rid of the magnets so it doesn't mess with calibration, it doesn't mess with any of your electronics that you have, whether that's your Kestrel or your binos. I will say this part took a little getting used to. So I got used to doing what the Recon did, is it would fold all the way down and kind of tuck under at the bottom. This does not do that, and you can't really do it with the way the bungees are set up. However, the more that I use it and the more I've gotten used to it, the more that I like it. So it just folds down here, and then once your binos are done, it's a lot easier to just pull it back closed. And the reason I like that is because when we shot out in West Texas, out in Lubbock, or south of Lubbock, that red sand, that real fine, like powdery sand they have, that moon dust, gets into everything. And like 3 or 4 months after that, I was still getting sand out of here from when it would go prone. So this will just help keep some of that out of there. So I actually have started to like that more and more. A couple of the other changes they made, or features that I've noticed on this one, is these additional attachment loops they have here. So like this one right here, what I've done is on this side, I have my Kestrel attached to it. So this, with that amount of slack there, I can still calibrate it, I can still check my wind, do all those things, do all the fun stuff. But the reason I have it attached is for whatever reason this falls out, I don't have to worry about losing it. And if you're out hunting, last thing you want to do is like backtrack and try to find where you dropped this, because finding this in the woods is not exactly fun. And the way that it's attached, this is a simple loop on there, so you can pull the slack out of there, loosen the loop, and then if you needed to take your Kestrel off for, whatever reason, you just don't want to have the chest rig around, you can take it out and you have your Kestrel with you. So inside, I have my SIG Kilo 10. These are the Gen 2s, the ones that have less blue tint. They've worked great for me. Haven't had any issues, so don't really feel a need to change them yet. So I'll continue to use those until I find a reason not to use them. There are other options in the market. Again, whatever suits your price range. You don't have to have range-finding ones. Again, these are all nice-to-haves, not must-haves, but it is really nice to have when you're shooting NRL Hunter. In the front, all I keep in here, these are stickers. So if I see you guys out at a match or on range, I typically just give people stickers. I keep lens wipes in here for my glasses and for optics and scopes. So those go in there. I have a little extra data card for when I'm shooting gas gun or PRS. I attach these onto the gun. I just keep an extra one because I tend to lose them. They fall off. And then on this side, in this little pocket, I just keep a little plastic bag with batteries for all my electronics. So a backup battery for all my electronics. So I actually have an extra set of batteries I actually keep in a little theorem pouch, but I keep this one on me, so if for whatever reason I need to get to them quickly, I can. And I put them in a plastic bag just to protect them from the elements. That is the front pouch. Now here at the bottom, it's got some molly slots down there. So all I did was took some bungee, ran it through there, and then I put a tourniquet, because tourniquet would probably be the thing that I would need most quickly. So I put that there, and it's being able to reach it either left or right hand is always nice. So that's why that's there. On the side, I just keep an extra Sharpie, or not a Sharpie, dry erase. I keep an extra marker there. I have one on my data board, and for whatever reason it dries out, stops working, I have a backup with me. Their accessories pouch I keep on this side, and all I keep in here, there's nothing in this little bungee spot. I usually just throw trash in there, or like snacks. But in here are all the small tools that I might need, or little things that I would need out on the range or at a match when I have my bino pack with me. So I keep some in-ears. These are my Surefire in-ears. These are just some I think they're like $10 when I bought them. But just some cheap in-ears, because I shoot suppressed anyways and we're outdoors, so they don't have to be super great, but these have worked really well for me. So Surefire in-ears, that way I know that if I have my chest rig, I know I always have a set of in-ears with me at the very least. I have a lens pin that I got from Night Force, so thank you to Night Force, lens pin. You always want to use this when you get that sandy, moon dust all over your lenses, whether it's your glasses, your binos, or your scope. You want to clean the dust off before you start wiping them down with anything, otherwise you're just scratching the glass. So always try to use this. If you have one of the little pocket rockets to blow it out, that works too. Knife, because you never know when you're going to need a knife. Paint can opener, in case you get a stuck casing, rip it out. And then this is from Ford Controls. This is their rod system that breaks down. It's just a nicer rod system, and it makes it easy if you got to push a squib round or something like that out of there, they get stuck in the barrel. And then I keep a Night Force tool to adjust the scope. So anytime you got to reset your zero, reset your turrets, having the tool with you is easy. So I know I always have those things that I need with me at all times. Now on this side, I have a Spiritus Spuds pouch, and I like using these because I can fit a bunch of different magazine types in here. So I know I can put like 3 P mags in here. I can put 2 of my 6.5 mags in here. If I needed to use something else, I can throw that in there. If I don't need an extra mag, I've actually thrown water bottles in there and just keep an extra water bottle on me if it's super hot outside, if I'm just out spotting at a class or something. And then on the inside of the chest rig or the chest harness, you have this little pocket like the last version had, and all I do is keep an extra data card in there, and for NRL, I'll keep my NRL card in there. So I keep it in a plastic bag because it will get a little sweaty, so I just keep those in there. So I always have backup data cards if I need them, if I need to make a new one, and then keep my NRL in there. So one thing I want to talk about that I don't feel like it's mentioned enough, and that's the new harness on the Bravo. So this new harness, as you can see, is different than the last one. It is way more comfortable. It keeps the harness in place the way that it should be, and it breathes better, in my opinion. But the other big thing is that it has these clips. So when you have like your binos in here and you're running, over the course of the day, because it's losing the tension as you're running, it's bouncing up and down, eventually the harness it just slowly starts to sag more and more and more. And it gets really annoying. So you're constantly having to readjust it. It's like crooked and all wonky or whatever. So they have these new clips on there that actually snap in place, and that keeps it in place so that the strap never slides. So as you're running, it's not going to do that thing where it slowly drops down. It's going to stay in place throughout the day. So that is substantially better, and I really like these clips, and I told them, I was like, hey, I hope that you guys are going to use this on all your bags going forward and on all your products, because these are fantastic. So hopefully they do that. Hopefully we see that in future products, but I'll talk more about this in an upcoming video. And then last thing, you always got to keep a lens wipe on you. I have these little Night Force Spuds pouches. I always keep those on me. They're like on my bags and all over my stuff, just as you never know when you got to clean glasses or optics off. So that is the Everlystock Bravo. Moving on to my pack setup, this is the Everlystock Switchblade. I've been using this pack for a little while. I really like it so far. There are some new packs that I do want to try out, so hopefully I can get my hands on a couple of those as they're released, and I can try those out, see if I like them better than this. And we'll talk about this pack here in just a second, but this is the way it would be set up going onto a stage for NRL Hunter, and that's why the bag and tripod are on the side. So that way when I take the tripod off, the bag is with it. I can set it up right there. So this hook is just a little G hook is all it is. So it doesn't snap into place, it doesn't clip. So far I haven't had an issue where it's like fallen off, but I still would like something that stayed on a little bit better for peace of mind. For the time being, it works. This is a pint-sized game changer. This is the sticky version with sand fill. That has been the bag I've been using for forever, since I've gotten into long-range shooting. Tripod is the Really Right Stuff 34L. I wanted a robust tripod that I could shoot off of that would last me for years. And when I talked to Joe, formerly Bruiser Industries, now Velis Industries, when I talked to him, he said, go with the Really Right Stuff, it's buy once, cry once, and I did. I dropped the coin. Glad I did, and it's a fantastic tripod. Haven't had a need to replace it, and I think it's the gold standard on the market in terms of tripods, but it is expensive, so there are other options. Attached to it, I have the Rytech. This is their NRL plate. I like this plate better than anything in their lineup and some of the other things in the market. One, I do like the grip tape on there because it keeps the bag on so it doesn't slide off. I like how light it is. I do like that it has R-Lock. I mean, it's not like a must-have having R-Lock on there, but it's a nice to have. But I like the footprint of this. Some of the bigger ones, they just kind of get in the way, I think. Especially when you're shooting off of them, you end up hitting them more. You can't get the gun over the middle of it like I'd like to for your balance point. So again, personal preference, but I think this is the best one in their lineup. But yeah, Rytech, that is their NRL Hunter plate. And then the Really Right Stuff 34L. There's other great options in the market for all three of those things. Now, the Everlystock Switchblade, one of the main reasons I like this bag is just the way the zippers are set up. I like that I have the ability to attach a tripod on the side, and I like that it doesn't have a frame. The reason I like that it doesn't have a frame is because I can use it like a body pillow. So if I needed to sling this like a body pillow, I can use this to then lay into or lean into for different positions or support the gun in a different way. Bags that have frames, you can do that, but they're not as forgiving, especially if they're really tall. So this one, I can kind of push down into it and it crunches down. I can use it in a variety of ways, and I like that. If I was shooting a sniper match or if I was shooting Mammoth where you're carrying a lot more weight, I would want a bag with a frame. But just for going from stage to stage at a gas gun match or going stage to stage at NRL, this is more than enough. And if I felt like I needed to carry a little bit more weight, I can always throw a hip belt on here, so that way it fits a little bit better and distributes that weight a little bit better. So on the outside, I do have a carabiner with gloves and electrical tape. The electrical tape is not for any like cool guy, high speed stuff. This is just for when I need to make sure stuff is taped on my scope and then taped on the buttstock. So it's really all that's for. Occasionally you can fix stuff with tape. So if you got to tape up a sling or whatever, you got to rig up some stuff, it does come in handy. And then having gloves, you never know when you need a set of gloves out in the field, especially with thorns and all the metal and all the things we got out in Texas fields. So outside of that, I've got their just Everly Stock's medical pouch. I don't really take everything out of it, but it's their IFAK holder, so everything is in there, packed in, so I can rip this off and then give it to somebody should they need it. Hopefully, we never have to use it, but that is their IFAK kit. I really like that. And then I keep an extra set of shears. There's a set of shears in the IFAK, but I like keeping an extra set just in case. Also, it makes it easy for me to cut the electrical tape. In this zipper here on top, I keep all the tools that I need. So if I need to fix something or if somebody needs tools to fix something, I can access all of that right here without having to dig into the bottom of my bag. So inside, fix-it sticks. And then these two are for my suppressors. So for whatever reason I need to tighten that or loosen it, I can do that. I always carry a couple of zip ties in case, again, you got to rig some stuff up. And then I carry Allen keys for the really right stuff. Because occasionally these legs will come loose. So I like to be able to tighten them down if I need to. Keep all that in that pouch. These side zippers, I don't have anything in this one right now, but if, depending on the weather, I will throw like a shemagh in there for shade. I will throw a little wrap for the scope just to keep water off the optic. Whatever I need, I can throw that in there. Just something light, something small. On this side, I keep a couple of accessories for my tripod. So this is my little very scientific wind meter. At a PRS match, I'll attach that on there, but I don't need that when we're shooting NRL, or it's just not as useful. So I use that just to get a better idea what the wind's doing, and then I carry an extra strap in there. When I'm not using the bag deck from Rytech, I will throw this in here. So that way it's not hitting me in the head and I don't have to worry about breaking a window. So that goes in there. Now, moving on to the top, this top pocket. Normally, I keep all my stuff stashed in here, so my arm board, my data card will go in here, but I just keep spare stuff. So again, extra tool for Night Force, extra Sharpie, Big Tex, RIP. And then I also keep a headlamp in here because some of these NRL matches, they start super early. So I always keep a headlamp in case you got to find the bathroom. You don't want to find a snake on your way. That would be a bad start to the day. So that's what goes in the top pocket. Repack all that in a minute. And then the main zipper. So I like the way this opens up. Main zipper, all I've got here is this is actually a dump pouch from Everly Stock. It's technically not a dump pouch. It's like a Nalgene holder that you can attach by MOLLE to the outside of any bag that has MOLLE. You can attach this on there, and you can squeeze the bottom or the top or both or whatever. What I do is I throw my brass in there. So after stage, I pick up all my brass, throw it in here, and then I cinch down the top so that at the end of the day, I have all my brass and I can get it reloaded. So that's what I use that for. You can use it for other things. If your bag doesn't have a pocket and you want to carry a tripod, you can use that, put the base of the tripod in there. So again, a lot of good uses. I do carry a bladder in here when I'm carrying water, so that's why the hose is run on there. I just find it easier to carry water that way. Inside, I have an extra bag, so this is an extra pint-sized game changer. The difference between this one and the one that I have on me is this one has the Get Light fill, and the reason I have that is because this one actually goes on my belt. So I have it on my belt. I know some guys don't like that or whatever. One thing that I picked up from Ryder we talked about was having the ability to have this as a backup. So if for whatever reason I lose that bag, which I did do on a stage and I couldn't find it, I was able to grab this one and get through with this. The other thing is, if I need to, I can stack bags so that I get a little bit more height at the back of the gun. So that's an option. And then the way that I use it the most, the reason I have it attached here is if I'm going one knee up and there's a gap between my elbow and my knee, I can fill that gap. And then also I can throw it in the gap between my heel and my butt. That just helps stabilize you. So it's a nice little nifty trick to have that with you. You don't always got to use it, but it's there if you need it. So that's where that goes. And then I have ammo libraries or ammo binders and then bead wipes. Because again, you're out in the field, Sometimes you're a mile away from the nearest bathroom. So having dude wipes can be beneficial. And then have a little baggie inside, one of their dry bags from Everly stock. And I just keep that stored in there as a backup. So if for whatever reason we get caught out in the weather and I have my camera or any electronics that I don't want to get wet, I throw them in that bag. I put the bag inside of the backpack and protect them from the elements. So that is the pack. Again, there are a lot of good options, alternatives to these on the market. So I'm not going to tell you your favorite color, but you can find things that suit your why and set your bag up accordingly. Last and certainly not least is clothing. So I do want to talk about clothing because I've been asked about this in the past and I've wanted to do a video on it, but I never felt like it was right to just do a solo video on clothing. So I felt like I could add it in here. So typically in the past, I've used Mantle clothing a lot. I do, disclaimer, I do photo shoots for them. So a lot of their studio photos and things like that, as they need, I will do that. But I've been a big supporter of their gear. I've talked to them about some of the things they've made. I've made recommendations on things they could change and talked through some of the changes they're making. Like the poncho. Their poncho is probably one of my favorite things. Their rain jackets are amazing. I love those. I keep their rain jacket and their cold weather jacket in my truck all the time because you never know, like Texas weather changes. So always having those is super nice. But as far as like field gear goes, this is their, I don't remember if it's the Mod 1 or Mod 2. I always get them confused. But I do like their shirts. I like that your body part is very breathable and it's comfortable, it's soft. And then the sleeves are super durable. And then they have these slots for elbow pads. So you can actually put an elbow pad in there. So if you shoot on really sharp rock a lot or on like gravel or like blacktop where it ends up tearing up your elbows, like it's super nice to have that. And these are very durable. Haven't had any issues with them. I've had like 4 different versions of these shirts and pants. Again, one of the things I really love about the pants is the pocket layout. So really like the pocket layout, really like the integrated knee pads. I like the vents, everything about it, the durability. One thing that people don't like is the sizing. That's something they've improved over the years as the company has gone on. And I think they've got it pretty good with this last set. But that is something that I've used in the past and I continue to use. But something I've been really interested in because, as you guys will know, it's not cheap. Mantle clothing is not cheap. It is quality gear, but it is also pricey. And if you're not in the space to spend the money on that, or you just don't want to, that's just not your jam, that's cool. So I've actually been into lately is talking to some of my friends who are cowboys and ranchers. And I started following this channel called What a Cowboy Wears. And I've been really deep diving into that. So one of the things I've been turned on to is Wranglers and Levi's, right? Just classic Wrangler and Levi's. But these are Wranglers. These are just their 100% cotton denim pants, and I like these. I went with the lighter color because they're not so hot in the summer, but they're more durable because the way I got set on this or hooked on this is cowboys are in the environment that we shoot in all day, every day, and they have to go through rugged environment, with thorns or whatever, and they're doing stuff that their clothing has to last and it has to be durable. So I was like, why don't you just look at what they're wearing and just get that? So that's actually how I got turned on to these. That's why I started researching that. So these are from the Wranglers. I think I got these for like 30 or 40 bucks. Maybe it was like a buy 2, get 1 free or something like that. So you can get some pants for pretty cheap and they're durable. They last and they're comfortable. As long as you don't get like a skinny jean, like slim fit version, just get this. These are straight leg and you'll be fine. You can breathe in them, you can move around. So there's that. The other option is a carpenter pant. So I think Wrangler and Levi's both make a version of it, but the carpenter pant has this extra pad here on the knee. So if you're worried about, again, if you're shooting on like really sharp rock or blacktop or any of those things that are going to tear up your pants, having that extra knee pad, that extra knee area is going to help eliminate some of that wear and tear over time. The carpenter pants also have the extra pockets down the side. So if you're one of those people who likes to put a chamber flag in there or just an extra rag for your arm board or anything like that, it does afford you those extra pockets to be able to do that. So give those a look if you're looking at doing something a little bit cheaper. I think these are like 50 bucks, 40 bucks. So a cheaper option instead of Cries or some of the other options on the market. Another thing I will note is that as I kind of geeked out about clothing, if you're looking at clothing, look at something that is 100% natural fibers. So whether that's 100% cotton, 100% linen, 100% wool, whatever it is, just make sure it's all natural fibers and not a mix of elastic or Rylon or Krylon or whatever they call it. Any of the plastic blends or artificial fibers. The reason that is that essentially those artificial fibers are just plastic, is really all they are. And plastic, when you apply heat to it, starts to shrink and like shrivel up differently than natural fibers do. So what happens is if you have a mix or a blend of natural fibers and then artificial fibers, when they get hot, if you dry them, or when they get wet, the way they respond to that, the heat and the water is different. And that's where you get piling. It's where you get those little balls that start to ball up on your shirt, or it's where you get holes start to separate because the fibers are ripping apart. So if you go 100% natural fibers, they tend to last longer. If you take care of them, they do better. That's just my opinion. It's what I found. It's going to be more durable for you. So that's just my advice on clothing, just other options. Not everything has to be in our industry. Again, this is something I mentioned in the previous video. Sometimes you got to look outside the industry to find the things that are best for you. Plus, if you're wearing something like these pants and just I'm going to start wearing long sleeve button up cotton shirts. If you wear that, as soon as the match is over, you might be a little dirty, but you can go out and have dinner and nobody's looking at you weird because you're wearing camo cries or tiger stripe cries. So, but if that's you and that's your style, that's your jam, cool, go for it. And then the last thing I would be remiss if I didn't mention is the hat. So this is from American Hat Company. I got it at the best hat store in the stockyards. So if you're interested in getting one and you live nearby or you're going to the stockyards, ask for Jesse at the best hat store and he'll get you taken care of. So this is, I was looking at hats for shooting matches and I was like, man, why don't I just get a cowboy hat? Because like I always wear a baseball cap and, I end up getting like my neck is burned or like the side of my face or whatever. And I was like, dude, just get a cowboy hat. Flat brims, like a little more sun coverage. The crown is a little more my style. It breathes better. I dig it. So, and it looks better. It looks cooler. So that's it. That's my gear for 2026. If there's something I left out, something you want to know more about, something you have questions about, leave it in the comments down below. Make sure that like and subscribe. Crunch up that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you guys in the next one.